Before we load up on all the subs, let's get at least a little bit of Tim Pool content.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Culture War. We got a...
God, he's so lame.
Whoa! It's me, Tim Pool! Whoa! How's it going, everybody? Special episode today. It's not necessarily about a core issue. It's we're being joined by Adam Conover.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming, man. Who are you? What do you do?
I'm a comedian.
Tim, I do like that Adam Conover's body language looks like he's about to hurl himself over the table to throttle Tim. And honestly, that's the kind of energy you need in this conversation.
I've made a couple television shows in the past, did a true TV show, did a Netflix show. I'm a stand-up comic. I'm going to be in Charleston, South Carolina this weekend, and you guys invited me. Thought I'd swing by.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
You had what year was that show, Adam Ruins Everything?
It first came out in 2015, I think, and ran until 2019. We did like 4 or 5 cycles of it.
My mom loved your show.
Oh.
And I think she watched regularly. I watched a handful, to be honest. I'm not going to.
That's fine.
But you did have one really good one on gun control that I thought was good because you pointed out Reagan was the start of gun control. And you had probably one of the most, I think, honest portrayals when you had a Black Panther and...
You just sounded like a 90s youth pastor. Funny you say that because I was a Bible camp counselor, which is very similar to that.
Like a white rural like fat guy, both being like, yes, guns.
Yeah.
Because we often see this depiction where it's like racists are mad, like they lump all 2A people in with like all white supremacists or whatever.
Yeah.
And they try and act like conservatives are mad that black people have guns. And it's like,
conservatives are mad that black people have guns. You know, a lot of white supremacists are upset that black people have guns. That's literally why Reagan introduced gun control.
The 2A guys are not racist. It's a totally different ideology.
Well, yeah, we made the point in that video, though, that, those people tend not to defend, like, black people who are the Philando Castile case, right?
That happened in Minnesota. Philando Castile, like where the fuck were all the Second Amendment people when it came to Philando Castile? Dude was shot dead after saying, hey, I have a gun in my glove box. And then when he was asked to provide his license and registration, he went to get his license and they shot him dead in front of his family. Weird that a lot of Second Amendment folks just don't show up for that. So strange.
It was one of the ones that we talked about. But that's, comes
that actually was a really interesting case too, because there were a lot of people on the right. For people who don't know, this is the guy got pulled over. I think he was smoking weed. He had a gun.
No, he wasn't. Actually,
didn't draw it or anything, but the cop just shot and killed him.
What a mangling of the story. I hate Tim Pool so much.
I believe what happened. This is so many years ago.
Hey, Dragonfly.
And I've done so many things that my memory for stuff like this isn't as good as it used to be. But I believe he said, officer, I have
Miss Milena, where have you been? Also, wait, why don't we have huggers? What happened to the huggers emote? Or is it just hug? It's just hug.
Firearm and, which is what you're supposed to do. And the officer shot him, I think, at that point.
Yeah, he didn't draw it or anything.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see the rift between...
He had it stored in the car properly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a lot of conservatives were like, yeah, well, you shouldn't have been smoking weed. And I'm like, whoa. Yes, but you don't die because you're armed. You have a right to keep and bear arms. So that was an interesting contrast. But anyway, that was, you got a lot of praise from the pro 2A people because they were like, hey, this guy's, he's being honest. It's like, there are pro 2A people. They're not all going to be racist, white supremacists or whatever. But anyway, I digress. I'm curious.
Just real quick. Just real quick here. I just really want to give you guys... I know that this is not the main thrust of whatever that they're going to talk about, but this is how bad the testimony of the officer who shot this guy for literally no reason. And I'm just going to read his answers to questions when it questioned immediately following the shooting. Castile was sitting in the car, seat belted. I told him, "Can I see your license?" And then he told me he had a firearm. I told him not to reach for it, and sigh, he went down to grab. I told him not to reach for it, clear his throat, and then he kept it right there, and I told him to take his hands off it. And then he and his grip is a lot wider than a wallet. And I don't know where the gun was. He didn't tell me where the fucking gun was. Got all hinky. And I didn't know. I just told him to keep his hands off the fucking gun. And then later he goes, "I thought I was going to die." And I thought if he has the guts and the audacity to smoke marijuana in front of a 5-year-old girl and risk her lungs and her life by giving her secondhand smoke and the front seat passenger doing the same thing, then what care does he give about me? The officer never saw a firearm that day. He never saw a gun. And it's just like, in his court testimony, he said, "I was able to see the firearm in Mr. Castile's hand. And that's when I engaged him." And that's just a fucking lie.
Well, I guess I can ask you something simple first. Like, what are you currently working on?
Currently, everything I'm doing is like podcast, YouTube, right? The like mainstream entertainment industry kind of stopped making the kind of comedy I make, and so YouTube has like replaced television for so many people. It's the #1 streaming app on televisions. Their top format is television sets, and so that's where I've moved all my shit. And so yeah, I do kind of similar stuff to what I used to do on cable, doing it on YouTube on a weekly basis. And I'm a touring comic.
Right on. Well, let's jump into the current state of affairs. We've got a second Trump administration, non-consecutive.
Oh, also, there's no evidence that Philando Castile was smoking marijuana. The allegation comes from like they found like a small amount of marijuana in the car. That's it. Just after the fact, they said, "Oh, he was. Yeah, I could smell marijuana," which to me, I'm sorry, that smells like bullshit.
What's your take on what is currently happening politically and culturally?
Damn. Yeah, I mean, you're going to disagree. Your audience is going to disagree. That's
the point, right?
It's hard. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to, Tim Pool destroys woke comedian. It's fine. You can start the clip at this point if you're doing your response videos, Yeah, I mean, it looks like a pretty clear fascist authoritarian takeover of the U.S. government. It's we got people being thrown into unmarked vans. We got like the destruction of the civil service, which is like a pretty standard authoritarian tactic, like early on in a administration of that type. Yeah, it's like sort of remains to be seen how far they'll get, and if they'll actually be able to transform in America in the ways that they're trying to. But yeah, it's pretty. My side of America, people are a little on edge. It's a little frightening to folks.
Yeah, my take on that would be largely because corporate press is lying to them, largely. And
what corporate press? There's no corporate press left, hardly.
Well, I would say their viewership is rapidly diminished.
Yeah.
But still, when you look at, there was a Real Clear Politics aggregate polling found that they didn't do it necessarily by demographic. They did it by decade age bracket. So it was like 20 to 29 or whatever. Every age group except for 70 plus was pro-Trump. Was a few points above.
Real Clear Politics did a average, and they said that every age group in
except
America,
for 70 plus,
every age group except for 70 plus is pro-Trump.
Yeah, let me see if I can try and find it.
And this is contrasting to like all the approval.
I feel like Adam Conover has discovered Tim Pool's kryptonite, which is just to like ask his statements back to him in like a dismissive tone. Like, really? You that's what you believe? Because like, and immediately Tim backed down. He's like, yeah, let me see if I can find that.
Rating stats I've seen have him at like 47% and dropping or something like that.
It's largely based on the older crowd.
just old. That seems like the opposite of every stat I've seen in the past. But I don't like.
That seems like the opposite of reality.
Follow those really closely.
Yeah, I don't know how to find this image because it was a few weeks ago. But let me see if I can try and pull it up and talk at the same time, which I probably can't.
Can I just say, matching Tim Pool's kind of bored tone is honestly kryptonite for him. He can't. He doesn't know what to do with it. It's hilarious.
But I don't actually. Do you want to see if you can try and find it?
Subject change.
While we talk. Otherwise, I'm going to be sitting here typing.
No problem.
Out of my mind. Yeah. So what I would say is like the obvious story. We debated this last week live is the Abrego Garcia story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the take that I've typically seen from liberals is actually I'll use a specific example. The David Pakman subreddit. Pakman, of course, has millions of followers. He gets 100 million views per month. And his audience on Reddit was saying, this is just a family man who is trying to escape harsh conditions in Central America, who has been effectively disappeared by the Trump administration, which is a gross mischaracterization of what happened. If we were to say that a judge granted Abrego Garcia withholding of deportation due to Barrios 18 in Guatemala and threats against his life in El Salvador, then the question of due process is he needed to get a hearing as pertaining to that withholding of deportation. But he did already have two hearings in which he was determined to be an MS-13 gang member. He was pulled over and law enforcement believed him to be human trafficking. He has 2 filings from his wife for beating her. She was filing orders of protection. And so it's fine if, in my view, the liberal side of things or the, podcasters like Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen and others are going to say, hey, he was.
I mean, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, whether he's a criminal or a saint, that's irrelevant because the entire premise is that he deserves a day in court. Full stop. Like who gives a shit if he was a good person or a bad person? He deserves to go in front of a judge.
Was supposed to get a hearing, agreed, but it is a gross mischaracterization. So when you mention that, people on the left are on edge, I'm like, yeah, well, they think that a guy who lives in Maryland who was working like a regular union job or whatever just disappeared one day, as opposed to a guy who had gone through several hearings, was arrested with MS-13, had symbols on his hand that.
Dude, get ready to get wrecked, I guess. He had symbols on his hand. He had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles.
Law enforcement believe were MS-13 gang tattoos. And so the real question is, what was the error in that deportation? On the right, it's
the lack of due process. The fundamental thing that we use in our society to determine whether or not someone is guilty of the crime they are accused of.
It's legally called harmless error in that he didn't get a hearing as to the withholding of deportation. However, he wouldn't have got it approved anyway. So the answer now is a formality. It's paperwork. It's a Zoom call, and then it's done. But people on the left, the liberal side of things, they think that this is a working class family guy who's vanished one night, an American citizen. And I think it was actually Hassan.
Well, people don't think he's an American citizen. I mean, they're up to speed on like
Hassan Piker thought he was from Maryland. Legit, and so
okay.
and we're talking, and
I mean, he's from Maryland insofar as like that's where he lives with his family. He's lived there for 10 years. Kind of the same way people might consider Tim Pool from West Virginia, despite the fact that he wasn't born there.
I know it's not you, but this is like the 7th biggest live streamer in the country. Almost every single day, Hassan gets 50K. And he actually said on his stream in response to the comments I made at the White House, what do you mean he's not from Maryland? Are you saying he's from D.C.? He's from Maryland. No, he's from El Salvador. He only lived in Maryland for a few years.
Okay. I mean, that guy talks for, 8 hours a day. Like you can parse, any particular
For sure.
statement. But like, I mean, that to me, everything that you said, first of all, half of it sounds unrelated. Like, he's had past interaction with law enforcement, like domestic violence and stuff like that. To me, that's like neither here nor there. It's like character stuff. I don't really give a shit about like the character of the guy. And I didn't think that was
I'm really here for the energy Adam Conover is putting out there, because like, I don't know what happened. Usually I see him very animated. He looks and sounds like he just rolled out of bed and hasn't had his coffee yet. And it's honestly doing excellent rhetoric here. This is wonderful.
The big part of the story. It was like the fact that he did not, receive due process before being, rendered to a prison, like this bizarre prison in El Salvador. Like that's the strange part.
That's
right?
El Salvador's government with an El Salvadoran citizen. That's not our purview.
I mean, he's like sent directly to this like gigantic, complex.
We're literally paying for him to be held there.
In a like highly public way, in a way where like the administration, is making a show of their refusal to, follow the law. It's bizarre to witness, and like this sort of narrow legalistic. Oh, he had a hearing. He was da 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 da. It's
very knifey duck. Thanks for the $5
There is a very
demo.
good reason a lot of us wanted to watch this interview.
Fair.
Irrelevant to like the purposeful spectacle of the Trump administration, sending this guy who they admit they should not have done this, but they're like, we don't give a shit. We're doing it just because we hate guys like this, and we want like even people who are in the country legally to, be afraid and to self-deport.
Yeah.
Like it seems like the only justification is purposeful cruelty for doing
I don't think they call on any legal immigrants to self-deport. They're calling on illegal immigrants to self-deport, offering up $1,000 if they do.
The guy had a legal status to be in the country.
He did not.
Legally.
That's not true. Withholding of deportation isn't legal status. Withholding of deportation
It's literally granted by the court. What are you talking about?
means he was ordered to leave the country, but the U.S. was barred from sending him to El Salvador, specifically because Barrios 18 in Guatemala had threatened his family. So the question as to due process was, this is why I think the actual legal standard is called harmless error. If he actually got either USCIS interview as to the withholding of deportation, it would have been voided because El Salvador no longer has the crime rate that it did 12 years ago or 10 years ago.
Like, I'm sorry, the argument that like, oh, well, he was threatened in Guatemala, so therefore he couldn't go back to El Salvador, as if Tim is acting like the withholding of deportation granted by a court was granted by the court for no reason. Like, the court heard, yes, you got threatened in Guatemala, and that's why you can't be deported to El Salvador. Very well, withholding granted. That's what? No, that's not how that works.
The issue is, are you still at threat from Barrios 18? The answer is no. And so then your withholding of deportation is void. We can deport you. The issue is that for deportation of someone like Abrego Garcia, he has a home country, El Salvador. He has a withholding to that, to El Salvador, a withholding of deportation because of a gang in another country neighboring El Salvador. We can't deport him to Venezuela. We can't deport him to Mexico. That requires treaties. The U.S. doesn't have those, though we do have a treaty with Venezuela, with El Salvador as it pertains to Tren de Aragua. So what ends up happening is
you just don't give him the court day, and you just send him to a gulag in a foreign country where we pay to hold him for some reason. Like, I'm sorry, you can't act like that makes sense.
he had 2 orders of deportation. He conceded in 2019 through his lawyer that yes, he was here illegally. Yes, he had been found to be here, to be removable under the law, and he requested 3. There's withholding of deportation.
Can we just like take a moment to really think about the fact that Tim Pool keeps saying the phrase withholding of deportation as if it's not a legal thing, and that as if none of the words in it make any sense. Like, he hasn't stopped and thought about the phrase. What does it mean to withhold deportation? Anybody? Can anyone come up with that? You know what? What's the one thing you are prevented from doing if you're told, hey, this person has the withholding of deportation status? What's the one thing you can't do? Actually, legally can't do. Exactly. You do not deport. You withhold the deportation.
There was asylum, and then there was I forgot the third one is it's you can't deport him because of a fear of torture. It's like a UN thing, and they denied two of them. Asylum was denied because he didn't apply for it in a timely manner. Deportation to El Salvador was granted because of Barrios 18 in Guatemala, and then the last one was denied because there's no torture provision. The remedy right now would be a Zoom hearing.
Again, that is just a willful misunderstanding of the law on this issue. Like, if I didn't have things to do tomorrow, I'd be taking a shot every single time Tim says something that doesn't make sense.
Where he gets on a computer, talks to these are executive judges, by the way, and they would just say, withholding denied. Welcome to El Salvador. You're an El Salvador citizen. I think the real issue is, yes, it was an administrative error.
And yet, that's absolutely not how it panned out, because he had a withholding of deportation status.
Shouldn't have happened, but the remedy is a 10-minute Zoom call. If we did that, nothing would change. If he was brought back to the United States, he'd immediately be turned around and sent back because his withholding would be voided. So
how is this something that you're certain? I mean, the man was, did a judge not order the Trump administration not to remove the guy? Like,
I think, it was,
honestly, I like the strategy of just letting Tim keep talking until he, hangs himself.
It was under the first Trump administration. He was granted the withholding. He wasn't supposed to be removed. He got caught up in the sweep, essentially. But again, if the due process due to this man would be a hearing under withholding of deportation.
So is he receiving this due process?
No, I agree. They should do it. I actually asked the secretary, why not just send the USCIS guy down?
Well, why don't you think they're doing it?
I think there's two potentialities. Trump, actually, it's probably more than two, but Trump doesn't want to look weak. He doesn't want to look like he's going to be pushed around by the judiciary. But I do agree with you.
Otherwise known as following the law?
No, not necessarily. I mean, the universal...
In this case?
No, actually, universal injunctions are unconstitutional. So there's a concern that...
They're not! What the fuck are you talking about? Judges can issue injunctions on the federal government, you dick shit.
Precedent will be set by Trump adhering to universal injunctions pertaining to the Alien Enemies Act or mass deportation, and he's not going to allow that to happen. So he doesn't want to set a precedent in the future. Universal injunctions don't exist anywhere in the Constitution, and we've seen some 40% of...
Yeah, well, you know what, Tim? Like there are a lot of things that don't exist in the Constitution that exist in the law. Like, I'm sorry. Hey, Tim, the building codes that ensure that your, skate park compound don't just collapse in on itself. Those aren't in the Constitution either. They're still legally binding.
Of all injunctions ever issued in this way against Trump and his administration. He's got more, I believe he has more universal injunctions in the first 4 months than all other presidents ever got individually. And that is unconstitutional. These judges are issuing these mandates which plainly violate their constitutional authority.
They don't. Courts can bar the government from doing things that are illegal. This isn't like that. That's literally the purpose of checks and balances between the judiciary and the federal branch. Like, again, there's a reason why one day I watched a Tim Pool video, realized how utterly devoid of interesting content and also how utterly stupid this man was. And I thought to myself, oh, wait. I could make content that's marginally smarter and, correct.
So the check on that is plainly Trump says, no, I'm not going to adhere to something you can't do.
Right. So this is
the check on that is the president ignoring the rule of law. Cool.
Again, this is authoritarianism, right? It's like
How's that authoritarian?
There's
I agree. The judges are acting in authoritarian.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he as an executive is trying to destroy the power of the other branches of government by ignoring their authority, by mounting
But they don't
like
have the authority to do
aggressive legalistic defenses like the ones that you're making
They
in
don't-
order to expand the power of the presidency and be able
Judges-
to act with impunity, which
judges
is
don't
part
have
of
the
why
authority
he's
to do
sending
that.
them. Sure. I mean, look, I'm not a legal scholar. Generally, I would have said that, presidents, I think, tend to follow judicial orders more than Trump tends to, right?
Let me ask you a question. If
Sure.
if a judge ordered you to shoot a man in the head, would that be illegal?
It literally is. We conservative states with the death penalty now have execution by firing squad. So yes, actually, in parts of America, if a judge orders an execution, you can in fact be required to shoot someone in the head. Like, I know that sounds insane, but yes, actually. Even his straw man is stupid.
I'm using an extreme example on purpose.
Yeah.
It's obviously no. A judge can't order you to kill somebody. That's crazy.
What? What is the death penalty, Tim?
But we're not talking about a judge ordering Trump to kill anybody. We're talking about judges in, I think we're up to like 87 instances, issuing universal mandates across the entire nation based on lawsuits of single individuals. So what, for example, a recent one was the transgender military ban.
I would be bad on Tim Pool because I would just laugh at him constantly. I think he'd get very mad at me.
Donald Trump issued an executive order saying, DSM-5 mental disorder, you are now going to be inadmissible from the armed forces and will be severed unless you are not showing symptoms. A judge ruled from this point forward, the military under Trump must admit all individuals regardless of.
Yeah, they try and shoot them in the heart, but you know what? Firing squads. I mean, it's a squad of people, guys. They're not all sharpshooters.
Any mental disorder. The judges only have the authority over the people in their courtroom unless it's a class action lawsuit. Universal injunctions are not constitutional.
Like Brown versus Board of Ed. Like, so you when a person brings a
So the Board of
lawsuit to the
Education is
government,
country, right?
So a person brings a lawsuit to the government about to a judge or the Supreme Court about a law being unconstitutional, and like the ruling should only affect that case. It shouldn't affect
It literally affects the
law.
law. It affects the law.
Uh-huh.
So in the issue of lower courts and this universal injunction, lower courts have the authority over the singular individuals in their courtroom unless it's a class action. So they could have made it a class action. They could have sent out the letters. They could have gotten the signatures and said, we need X amount of transgender military service men and women.
I don't think he knows what the words he's using actually mean. Like, I don't think he understands. I think he's just like panicking and throwing words together. Like if this were a chase scene, Adam Conover would be like Jason from the Friday the 13th movies. And like he would be like a panicked teen just throwing objects in front of like the door, like hurriedly in order to try and slow Jason's progress. Like genuinely, this is just nonsense.
Because we want this to apply to all. Instead, what happened was, and I'll argue this. This is where it encroaches into the authoritarian. The judge said all means all. That's a quote. This created a huge uproar because it meant that the military now had to enlist schizophrenics. That if someone showed up suffering from manic depressive disorder and they were paraplegic, they were now under this universal injunction entitled to join the military. But I mean, a schizophrenic bipolar who's suffering delusions is not going to be able to complete basic training. Now, perhaps there'd be an argument, as you're saying it, if the judge only said this stay will apply just to transgender military men and women, but they didn't. It was a woman. She said it applies to everybody. So Trump said,
"Oh, she was a woman." Well, that explains everything, I guess, huh, Tim?
Okay, I'm not even going to defy that. We're going to appeal it. He didn't even.
Yeah, that's how the law works, Tim. You can appeal things.
and ignore the order. They went to SCOTUS, and SCOTUS.
You think Trump even knows any of this was happening?
Probably not.
Like,
well, I mean, like,
I don't think he's
I'd say he probably knew it was happening, but I don't think he had a hand in the day-to-day operations of it.
I mean,
for any boss.
Yeah, it's just funny that.
The microplastics from his beanie are seeping into his brain. That's the dirtiest job of all.
I really like what you did there with text-to-speech and Mike Rowe. Thank you so much, Sake Tanuki, for the 2 tier 1 subs. I appreciate it.
We go, oh, Trump said this, Trump said that. Trump, I mean, he certainly hates trans people, but I don't think he's like, and doesn't want them in the military, but I don't think he's like following the day-to-day of the case.
I agree.
He's like, doing loop-de-loops out on the golf course. But like, the legalistic points that you're making to me, it's all a fig leaf for like the larger thing that he's doing, which is bending the law in these bizarre ways. What is the point of like sending people to El Salvador, right? To like this prison in El Salvador. Part of the reason to send him there, to send Abrigo Garcia there as quickly as possible, is it just shields him from the rest of the legal system, right? It makes it harder to get him back, right? If you send
he's El Salvadoran.
Yeah, but my point is like he's entitled to due process as someone who's in America, right? If you shove people into this like hole in another country as quickly as possible, it gives you plausible deniability. I don't really give a shit about the various again legalistic like little nuances of the ruling. The important part to me is Trump saying, being under an order to bring the guy back and saying, I can't because the president of El Salvador, my best friend, says he won't return him, right?
How would he get him to do it?
Saying El Salvador is basically a client state of the Trump administration at this point. He'll do whatever he wants. Like Bukele will suck his dick. Like it doesn't matter.
Want something in return?
Yeah, sure. What give him what, like they're friends. Yeah.
We're literally paying for we're paying the El Salvadoran government to keep them. Like we are giving them money. Stop giving them money.
So it's a fig leaf, right? It's like it's in order to the reason to do it is to just make it more difficult to do the right thing.
I suppose the issue is when Abrigo Garcia got deported, the administration right out was like, this is an administrative error. It was an oversight on the withholding of deportation. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled that Trump must facilitate his return.
Hey, JM Racing Fox.
The political debate is, what does facilitate mean? The Supreme Court hasn't clarified, which they definitely need to do when you have two factions arguing. The left argues it means literally bring him back. And the right says, no, it means provide him the means to return should he be able.
What the fuck, man?
Wait, the Timcast IRL has a beanie? Holy.
Who could have seen that coming? Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. I very, very much appreciate them. Yeah. We didn't just deport him. We sent him to a torture prison, to be tortured and never released. And we paid to have him kept there. But no. The court just said, to provide him with the means of return, should he be able. So, should he be able to escape the prison, climb over the multiple fences, not get shot by the guards, make his way through the jungle, and arrive at an airport where we have the jet ready to take him home, then we'll bring him back. But otherwise, there's nothing we could do. Our hands are tied. Fuck you, Tim.
And then I say, okay, the Supreme Court can literally just come out right now and issue like a writ and be like, no, we mean go and negotiate. However, the other challenge is Supreme Court also stated that no one can direct the executive branch to conduct foreign policy. So this would mean that Donald Trump could get him back in the sense that he could negotiate simple terms very easily. He could literally say to Bukele, listen, you're going to release the guy from prison. You're going to do it. If you want to keep working with us, if you want our money, you're going to do it. And then we're going to bring him back. Bukele would begrudgingly say yes, probably. There is the concern that Bukele would say, I win my presidency on going after MS-13 you've got to give a concession publicly in some way so that it looks like, but you're not going to look, if you shrug or not, the issue is, are we going to direct the executive branch through the judiciary to conduct foreign policy? And you can't do that. So I agree. Trump, here's what just happened right now. The executive courts, this is what they have, their immigration courts, should conduct a Zoom meeting with Abrego Garcia, and we're done. It's over. That's his due process.
Look,
that's not due process. Immigration courts are not the same thing.
This is
they're
bringing back
different from
Olmec's root
judicial
levels
courts.
of convoluted.
The Olmec's route levels of convoluted. You know, that actually makes perfect sense. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs and for sharing that with us, because that is essentially what Tim Pool is suggesting as like the reasonable route for getting Kilmar Abrego Garcia home.
An El Salvadoran citizen in El Salvador who was imprisoned by El Salvador.
My point is this: the reason there's any number of things that they could do. There's some things that both of us agree that they should do.
Link, please.
There's
Gotcha.
more things that I think they should do than you do, but et cetera. The point is, they are like loudly and proudly not doing any of that, deporting a guy they know shouldn't be deported.
But that's hold on. That's not true in any of the media. The media, the full reporting that we get across the board from the New York Times to CNN to even Fox News was he was accidentally deported without his hearing on withholding. So it wasn't an intentional, we're going to get this guy and get him out. It was crap.
So when Trump is like holding up photos of his tattoos with like MS-13 on it, and like they're giving press conferences about he beat his weather in character, assassination on the guy, like all of that is accidental.
No, that's
like,
a political attack against Democrats.
Yeah, right. So and so here, let me just get to the end of my point, okay? Is that, they turn it into a political attack because they are acting lawlessly. They're proud to be acting lawlessly. The point is to demonstrate on this issue we will act lawlessly. You're not safe if you are, even under the protection of a court order in this country, and you should be frightened and you should leave. It's just like it's an authoritarian attack against immigrants directly, and it's designed. It's a leverage of the it's a leveraging of the state to try to frighten immigrants and other groups, not only illegal immigrants. Okay, so let's talk about the students who have been detained and deported, right? These are people who are under student visas, right?
Get his ass.
They appear at a protest or two. And, they're thrown into vans. They're held in, these bizarre facilities. They're
like this. I don't know. Does Tim feel like he should have been arrested for, I don't know, making the statements about a long time ago, he went to Sweden to talk about like the rampant crime. Does he feel like he should have been arrested because it was maybe an inconvenient narrative that the state of Sweden didn't like? Should the Swedish police have rolled up and been like, "Hurdy birdie, dirty, 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 hurdy birdie, dirty, 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 dirty," and then gotten him off to jail? I don't think so.
But there's multiple cases.
If you want to say that,
so the point of this is to frighten people at universities,
I'm Swedish.
Pro-Palestinian protesters, and that means any protester on the left, of course, and C, immigrants of all types, including those who are here on legal immigrant visas. Like the details of the individual cases don't matter. They like creating a firestorm around someone who is here legally, creating a huge controversy about them, and then saying, we don't give a fuck. We're going to do whatever we want to these people because we want you to be afraid, right? But that to me is that's an expression of like pure authoritarianism. It's a leveraging of state power to frighten, undergroups in society that these people don't like. It's like very straightforward. We can mount as many legal defenses as we want of it and say, blah, 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 according to this statute or that statute. But the actual action is just designed to frighten people Trump doesn't like. And it's like, it's bizarre to see him do it.
Let's say yes, but none of that's illegal. That's all actually codified law that they're allowed to do.
Okay, yeah, sure. It's fucking bullshit. It sucks. It's bad. It's bad for the country. It's bad for the American spirit.
We can talk about a lot of bad things that every administration's done in the past that liberals and Democrats have covered up or participated
Yeah, we could talk about a number of different bad things, but we're talking about this bad thing, Tim.
in or didn't argue against.
Yeah, I guess why. I mean, we're talking about this one currently. It feels disingenuous to talk about one thing that the Trump administration is doing because Democrats have done bad things too?
Well, like, for instance, Donald Trump, through Marco Rubio specifically, revoking student visas, saying that these individuals represent a threat to our national security by adhering to our enemies. And literally, that's what they're claiming. I think it's ridiculous to claim that a student who's anti-Israel is working with Hamas. That's silly. But that's the argument he's making, and under the INA, he has the authority to do it. So you say, okay, well, when people come in here on student visas, they do sign agreements saying they won't do certain things. They do it. They get kicked out.
So this is okay with you because it's narrowly legal under Marco Rubio's, purview?
I would say what's fine with me is the revocation of a visa for someone who's not a citizen who's here conditionally.
I mean, it's also legal for a cop to shoot you if they are afraid. I don't know. Like, I don't know, Tim. Like, are you sure you want to go down this route? Like, I don't think you do.
Like Mohammed Khalil, who was on a conditional temporary visa.
So
if it gets revoked, I just say, like, well, that's a conditional visa.
No, Tristan MB is fine. Although I don't fully understand what she's talking about right now. I hope you're doing okay, Tristan.
I don't go to Singapore and spit on the ground. I'll get caned.
So sorry. You think what's happened to those students is like that's okay with you? Not legally. I'm talking about like as an event that occurred in the country. You're like, oh, it's good that happened. It's okay with me. You think it's moral. You think it's right. You think it's just. I'm not talking about legally. I'm talking about like you say you 60%? Don't 60%.
Yeah, like nothing's so easily black and white.
Rumeysa Ozturk, who she wrote an op-ed. The only thing that anybody has even claimed that she's done is she wrote an extremely mild op-ed in her campus newspaper, asking that the college like sort of consider being supportive of the Palestinian cause in some vaguely defined way. Yeah. Her visa's revoked. We've all seen the video, right? People come and like grab her and literally put her into a vehicle.
She was arrested.
They're wearing masks, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, she was arrested. Yeah, by a bunch of like ununiformed people who strolled up to her from all directions all at once, all of a sudden on campus with no notice, and then kidnapped her. Like, I'm sorry, Tim. I don't think there's a situation where 8 guys ununiformed come to your house, surround you, cuff you, and force you into a van, and you're like, yeah, that's fine.
Stopped in an alarming way on the street, right?
It's not like they filmed that and published that footage, though. That was security camera footage.
Yeah, of course they didn't film it, Tim. They're the fucking secret police. They're Gestapo agents. Like, yeah, they're not filming that shit. Like, a bystander filmed it. Like, there's security camera footage, but also other people around were very alarmed.
Yeah, but they did it in if you want a student, like a young woman, there's other ways to arrest them than have 6 people show up wearing masks, surround her in a pincer formation. Like it's designed to create terror. So like what
you don't have to do it that way. Agreed.
Okay, great.
They didn't have, and Biden's DOJ didn't need to show up at Roger Stone's house at 4 a.m.
Sure, and you know what? If you want to bring up another example, I'll say I condemn that as well.
Agreed.
If that'll keep us on this topic for a second.
We've had numerous instances across administrations that have acted similarly.
Okay, so let's stay on Rumeysa Ozturk. Why do you think that? Like, what was the administration's purpose? Not the legal argument for whether they can do it or not.
Israel.
What? Yeah. Okay. So
it's literal Israel, and it's absurd that they'd argue. What they're doing when it comes to these students is they're saying they're a threat to our national security, and that's
why don't we have gas chamber footage at the concentration camps? Dim tool.
It really is kind of like the drooling brain out Wojak meme. That's just Tim Pool. Like, well, like they didn't film it and put it out to make people scared. That was somebody else. They're it's not what they did that's the real problem. It's that somebody filmed it. It like that's the level he's operating on. Like, it's not wrong for the government to torture someone. It's just wrong to film it and then publish that footage. That's the footage is what scares people, not the fact that the government abducts you and tortures you. Like, that's insane.
I mean, it's
Do you think she was a threat to the national security?
It's technically the truth, which is the best.
We are at 50 subs out of 60.
That's kind of the truth in that, yes, opposing U.S. alliance with Israel is bad. Rallying in any meaningful way students to oppose Israel is bad for the U.S. foreign policy. But come on. You know what I mean? Like a woman.
But come on. Come on. Just let him have this one, Adam. Just let him have this one. Just let him have the student. It's fine. God. What a fucking Weasley pathetic coward. Plant in any just and sufficiently empowered regime that comes in, everyone in the Trump regime should face charges, in my opinion. But that we'll see if it happens. I would very much like to see some kind of Nuremberg-like trial to hold people accountable for what they're doing to this country.
Writing an op-ed that's not from here is,
and honestly, one specifically tailored to ICE in particular, I think is called for absolutely 100%.
Is nothing compared to the people
dissolve ICE, charge everyone
from here writing the same op-eds. What they're doing is they're basically saying,
"Damn, Ashley,
let's dit BWA.
Thank you for the 10 tier 1 subs. I very, very much appreciate it."
I agree with you in that they're saying, do not do these things or we will deport you. We will find the thinnest of hairs of a reason to revoke your visa if you come out against us. I'm not completely in disagreement. So the reason why I say 60% when you ask me if I thought it was morally right is because obviously they don't need 6 guys swarming her in a pincer formation. One guy could have knocked on her door and said, "Ma'am, your visa's been revoked. I'm going to need you to come with me. We've got a black SUV you can sit in. We're going to, deal with this in a rather kind of boring way." They didn't need to do that. The claim about a threat to our national security is grossly overestimated. The claim that these people have adhered to Hamas is grossly overestimated. That being said, it is still completely legal in that an individual who comes here on a conditional visa not violate the conditions of that visa.
Sure.
So it's legal.
No. But dude, I'm asking you, do you think it's good?
I'm asking you if you have any kind of internal sense of justice or opinions. Can you stop sucking off the American Gestapo long enough to have a sense of justice about the entire situation?
For America.
Yeah, exactly, my rear end. This is just Tim Pool being well, what are you going to do? The Holocaust, this genocide that we're doing here in Nazi Germany, it's legal. So, it genuinely is that, because he lacks any kind of moral spine.
That, college students who are here on a student visa because of political speech are being thrown into vans and having legal things be done. Sure, it's narrowly legal, but
torture.
She's sent home. She's being put in a prison, and then she's being forcibly deported. Do you think that's good for America? This is okay. So
marginally.
You think what do you think is good? Even marginally, what's the minor small benefit to America?
Do not come to our country and rally against it and its interests. I apply this too to any of these Canadian.
What is the U.S. interest that her writing an op-ed?
The Suez Canal.
The Suez Canal?
Right. The United States.
What?
The reason why the U.S. is so... I love these Jews people that are Israel controls the foreign policy. Oh, shut up. The U.S. interest is with Israel, Egypt, and...
I see. He hasn't read the op-ed. I see.
Saudi Arabia has a lot to do with the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. This is why Donald Trump is obsessed with Panama and Greenland. He wants to control the global trade routes. This is what America's largely done. That's why I say it's...
So how does an op-ed a year ago affect an op-ed written before Trump was even in office in a student newspaper? How does that threaten the Suez Canal exactly?
It's a gross mischaracterization to claim that an op-ed is a threat to national security, in that it is, in the smallest of senses. Students coming here and telling us to oppose our support with Israel puts us at risk in terms of the sentiment of a younger generation as to whether or not we'll fund Israel and control the Suez Canal.
Karen Ale, thank you very much for subscribing over on Twitch. Also, Entrama, hello! Congrats on graduating, by the way. Yeah, Tim Pool is a bitch ass pussy. It's true.
But I asked you if you thought it was good to deport her.
I said marginally. Right,
because we have national interests in the Suez Canal, and she wrote an op-ed.
That's the U.S.'s interest.
Okay, so why do you think it was good to deport her?
Asserting U.S. sovereignty. Do not come to our country and tell us what to do. You've got a condition of your visa.
She wasn't telling you what. This is her op-ed, guys. Try again, President Kumar, renewing calls for Tufts to adopt March 4th TCU Senate resolutions. She was literally calling on the president of her university to adopt the student Senate resolutions. Those Senate resolutions happen to be about Palestinian genocide. They have nothing whatsoever to do with the Suez Canal.
You're a guest in this country.
Okay.
Adhere to the agreements we have.
So you think that America should be a country where if you come here on a student visa, you're paying into our, university system, you're coming here for the reasons that, completely legally, we've invited you to come, right? Yes. This is why.
I'm just going to read this paragraph from her op-ed, by the way. Well, an argument may be made that the university should not take political stances and should focus on research and intellectual exchange. The automatic rejection, dismissive nature, and condescending tone in the university's statement have caused us to question whether the university is indeed taking a stand against its own declared commitments to free speech, assembly, and democratic expression. According to the Student Code of Conduct, active citizenship, including exercising free speech and engaging in protests, gatherings, and demonstrations, is a vital part of the Tufts community. In addition, the Dean of Students' Office has written, quote, while at times the exchange of controversial ideas and opinions may cause discomfort or even distress, our mission as a university is to promote critical thinking, the rigorous examination and discussion of facts and theories, and diverse and sometimes contradictory ideas and opinions, unquote. Why, then, is the university discrediting and disregarding its students who practice the very ideals of critical thinking, intellectual exchange, and civic engagement that Tufts claims to represent? I don't know. Maybe Tim Pool should actually, read the op-ed that he is claiming is sufficient to arrest a student and try and deport her.
America is the country it is, partially, because people like this have come for decades. If you express a political opinion that is mildly at odds with a U.S. interest in another country of a canal, that you should be deported. You think America
Andy
should be the kind
here.
of...
Your regular contributor Jim Waters has been trying to take the water from my beautiful canal. This is just no on. I will not have my canal drained to fund Jim Waters' third yacht.
I will not have my canal drained. Well, we wouldn't. I don't believe Jim Water would ever drain the Suez Canal to get a yacht. I mean, that's salt water. That's salt water right there.
Country where if somebody comes here, they write an op-ed that says
dono, Andy Suez.
Literally anything about U.S. foreign policy, they should be deported. So going forward. Literally everyone in the world should know if you are on foot on U.S. soil, you should not say anything in public about U.S. national priorities of any kind, or else you could be deported. Do you think it's good to have a country where that's the understanding?
All right. So you're saying that...
This is what I'm trying to drill down to.
The individuals who come to this country and apply for student visas have made that agreement already. So while I would argue the deportation of Romesa is the thinnest of hairs, Mahmoud Khalil makes more sense. I mean, he organized and helped lead protests that resulted in damage, occupations of buildings. Several staff at the University of Columbia.
Let's stay on Romesa, because then we don't have to split hairs.
Right. The issue is, do not come.
Good job keeping him focused, Adam.
To our country and tell us what to do. That's it. If you're here as a guest of this nation, you do not start rallying its people in opposition to the will of the voters and what the government is doing.
I mean, I really thought the point of America was freedom of speech was like a main value here. That I think that's why people come here. It's why I like living here, because I always felt that, hey, I can express an opinion, especially about U.S. foreign policy, and not have anything happen to me. So that's a right that only citizens have. And you think America should be a country where, if you are not literally an American citizen, if you express any opinion about U.S. foreign policy, I mean, and we both agreed the opinion she expressed was pretty mild. It wasn't like,
Hi, CEO of Big Water Jim Water here.
Damn.
I want to put to rest the notion that I am siphoning off the Suez Canal's water to fund my third yacht. This is simply untrue. Sent from my second yacht.
CEO of Big Water Jim Water, thank you for the $5 dono. I appreciate it, and appreciate the clarification that you are not, in fact, siphoning off water from the Suez Canal. I assumed it was filthy seawater propaganda, yet again. But, I will never allow someone to muddy the waters here. You will always have a way of
due to salt dissolving into the water in the lakes along the canal's route. The Suez Canal is actually more salty in the middle than at either end where it joins the ocean. You nerds.
Damn. Thank you for the $5 dono, Andy Suez.
Like a very inflammatory opinion, right? It was like, it's pretty mainstream political opinion to have. It conflicts with U.S. interests about the Suez Canal. I still don't really understand that point, but let's just say that it does.
It does.
That should be grounds for being forcibly removed from the country. And like, whether or not it's legally the case that.
I am assuming this goes to the Jim Waters Yacht Fund.
What? Thank you for the $10 super chat. I very much appreciate it. And I also assume it goes to the Jim Waters Yacht Fund, because I gotta buy water. This isn't free.
Calcium here. If there is not enough water in the canal, we can always replace it man milk.
Sam News, thank you for the Calcium, thank you for the $5 dono. I appreciate it. God, you guys have been on a real tear of meme construction. I guess we in the Riverboat Jack community have just been subsidizing the memes. It's just clearly that the meme market is booming.
That we could do that. Do you think it's good? You think it's good to have a country where things like that happen? You think a thriving country is one where people come into the country, they write an op-ed for the paper of the organization of which they're a member. She's paying tuition to go to this school, and she's working for the student newspaper or whatever. She's writing an op-ed. She's probably not employed there, but she's writing for the student newspaper, and that is grounds to be deported. And
always was. I mean, so my attitude.
You think that's the kind of country America is?
Always has been. That's why
I guess that's why
I would love for Tim Pool to point out one example of that happening in the past. I would love for him to point out one.
That's where we fundamentally disagree.
But hold on, the Immigration and Naturalization Act has multiple provisions that outright say this is the case, and so that's why I say it's marginally good, because the issue is the U.S. asserting its sovereignty and saying, as a guest in this nation,
I think that's a freakish position. I think that's a freakish position to have, Tim.
We ask you not do certain things.
We ask you don't write we ask you don't write mildly worded op-eds about U.S. foreign policy vis-a-vis a different country's war.
Let's not load it. Let's say, do not speak out against our foreign policy.
So okay, great. So America is a country where, if you, in your view, if you are a foreign national, you are here.
I love that Adam's approach is essentially just asking clarifying questions to nail down what Tim Pool's actual view is that he's trying to commit to here.
On a student visa, you've been invited to the country.
This like 4 times.
You should not
every time.
Okay. I just want to. It's fair. To me, Tim, it's a very baffling position.
Listen, you're arguing that I should call for illegal activities.
Let me
phrase it this way.
Sure.
My attitude is, Congress has passed a law. It was passed in the House and the Senate, signed by the president, and upheld by the courts. This law states it is the purview of the Secretary of State.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't know that this segment would go on so long when we started it. I thought they would move on to other topics.
To make the decisions as to whether or not these visas can stand for a variety of reasons. I say it is marginally good. Her opinion was mild, and I don't think it I think it's silly to claim that she's adhering to Hamas because an anti-Israel position. My point is, for the government to assert its authority under the law as codified by Congress, the president, and the courts is marginally good. Marginally is, I said 60% maybe.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's finding a lot of good in arresting someone on the flimsiest of pretenses. This would be like if you were saying, well, technically it's legal for ICE to arrest someone who drives 1 mile per hour above the speed limit. It's, I guess technically you could do that. It would be bad, though, if that was the standard to which we held everyone in the country.
If I was president, I wouldn't do it. But the idea that our country asserts its authority to say, you are guests in this country and we will make the determination whether you can stay or not is a normal process. And to argue that the government should not assert its authority when it feels it should, I think is silly.
I'm still looking.
There's a world we want to live in. And then I'll put it this way. I think people have a right to keep and bear nuclear weapons. The founding fathers were clear in their intent on the right to bear arms, which included privateers with grape shot. Now we've changed that and said only large corporations that the government approves of can have nuclear weapons. Agreed. No.
What are you talking about, Tim? What private corporation on earth possesses nuclear weapons? What are you fucking on, man?
Nobody should have nuclear weapons. My point is that if you want to change the law, you have to do it through the constitutional process, and that adhering to that is typically a good thing.
I don't know how we got on nuclear weapons.
It's a point about process of law.
Yeah, but
and saying the government has a right to do something. So if they choose to do it, okay. If you have a problem with it, then Congress should repeal those, specifically amend the INA to remove those provisions. It is completely legal under the United States at the will of the American.
Is it that stupid, Entrama? Is he doing the QAnon shit saying that the United States is technically a corporation? Like, is that the level he's operating on these days?
American people that this happened. You don't like that it's happening now, but this was the will of the voters and Congress, and it's been law for like 50 years.
Dude, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's right, right?
Correct. We should change it then. So my point is upholding the law is...
What's insane is like you've been saying it's good, though.
Well, if it isn't Shiverboat whack. This body of water ain't big enough for 2 riverboaters.
Oh no.
I hereby challenge you to a formal duel by means of boat jousting. Riverboat Zach shall prevail.
Oh no. We have a rival riverboat? The Riverboat Zach crew? Oh no. Oh no.
As the discovering scientist and lead advocate against the Helvetica scenario, I, Lady Helvetica, must warn again the proposal from Calcium.
I'm really enjoying the extended universe we're creating here. You guys just have to be consistent so we remember all the characters. And one of you should probably start a Wikipedia page. Slightly recolored Riverboat Jack, yeah. Riverboat Zach, thank you for the $5 dono. And Lady Helvetica, thank you for the 2 gifted tier 1 subs. I appreciate them.
Is marginally good. Sometimes the law is bad, and that's why it's not always good. In this regard,
so wait, you're saying simply the fact that Marco Rubio exercised his legal authority to do something was good.
Sir Times New Roman wishes to do battle with Lady Helvetica.
Oh God, Sir Times New Roman. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Okay, so we've got now we have the font aristocracy in the Riverboat Jack verse. My God, sacre bleu.
It's like he had the legal authority to do it. He could have enforced this law as he saw it on anybody. He could have enforced it on a comedian, right? Who's in town and goes on stage and says, "Hey, you know what? I disagree with this or that." Or, "Hey, I just did shows in
Canada.
You're
not from Canada.
No, but I just did shows in the UK and Amsterdam, and I made fun of UK politics, made fun of American politics."
Riverboat Zach? More like Riverboat Jerk.
Yeah, that's right, Paladin. You tell him. Thank you for the $5 dono.
You wouldn't dare make fun of Islam, though. Go to the UK and mock Islam. Do it.
Well, I don't have any jokes about Islam.
Why not? They got Pakistani grooming games raping little girls. Why won't?
Oh, no, I see what he's trying to do here. He's trying to say something incendiary in order to throw Adam Conover off of this particular topic because he's getting frustrated with it and he knows it makes him look bad.
You go to the UK.
What?
Why won't you go to...
See, that's exactly it. It's exactly it.
Hi,
he's pulling the escape
Dr.
hatch.
Riverboat Stein here, your third Riverboat.
Oh,
We are
no.
running to be the Riverboat in 2028. We are a serious boat.
What do you mean, the Riverboat? Dr. Riverboat, Dr. Riverboat Stein, this river is big enough for all of our boats. Thank you for the $5 dono, though.
to the UK and make jokes about Islam?
I don't think it's very funny. I don't have any jokes about it. I'm so confused. Dude.
Okay, let me help unconfuse you.
Honestly, like treating Tim and like the things he says here, like the freak he is the best strat.
Are there jokes that can be made about Islam? Yes or no?
See, now look at how far afield he is from Rumea Ozturk. You know, that's the direction he wants to go.
I don't
Yes
want
or no?
to. I don't want to go to
Are you
this
scared?
particular rabbit
Oh,
hole.
no. You're terrified. You're a hypocrite.
See, he's trying to bait Adam.
What?
Are there jokes you can make about Islam? Muhammad banged a little girl, right?
I'm really baffled.
You're terrified of the subject. I'm not.
No, I'm not.
In the UK, you can be jailed for making jokes about Islam or even bring up the grooming gangs. There are people who go online and
There are British comedians who make jokes about Islam, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
pointed out that a stabbing was carried out by a Muslim, and they got arrested for it. I'll bet you $1,000 you will not go to the UK and make a joke about any of that stuff, because you will not go to a foreign country and, in violation of their laws, speak out against what they've said not to speak out against. Do it. I dare you. $10,000. Cash in your pocket. You go to the UK and make a joke about Muhammad having a 12-year-old wife.
This we got here faster than I thought we would in this conversation. Where you're shouting at me about something I don't understand. I don't really understand how
Yes,
you would
do.
think it's incumbent upon
Do
me.
you think anybody watching this right now thinks you are confused by the notion that in the UK you go to jail?
You think anyone watching this right now is confused about me bringing up child molestation when we were talking about illegal
You need the
detention?
Mugatu. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills on your soundboard.
We do need this Mugatu clip. That's true.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
We do need that. I agree. If someone can get on that, I would love that on the soundboard. But like genuinely, like he was talking about Rumea Ozturk's detention and then got real frustrated that part of the conversation wasn't going the way he wanted. So he just brought up child molestation as a way to get out of talking about an inconvenient topic. Like any normal, sane, and rational person would be baffled by that. You know, that's a really pathetic thing to do. That one's used by a lot of hard right boomers. I know it's used by a lot of hard right boomers, but like at the same time, it has nothing to do with Marco Rubio targeting student visas. It has nothing to do with Marco Rubio targeting student visas.
For mocking Islam?
I don't understand how we got onto you shouting at me about Islam specifically. I'd like to return to a point I
it's
was trying
because
to make.
you said people should be allowed to come to this country and
Yeah.
speak out against it. And you said you're
I
a
think-
comedian, and you're a
I
comedian, and you
think
go to
that-
other countries, right? And you said you go to the UK. And I said, okay, if you go to the UK, speak out in violation of their laws and see what happens. And you said, I'm confused. I don't understand. What don't you understand? Will you go to Turkey? Will you go to Turkey and speak out against Islam?
I mean, if I have a joke to make, sure. I don't have a joke about those particular topics.
You would.
I would.
You
Hypothetically, you'd come up with the world's funniest joke about Islam.
saying if you had a joke about
Oh yeah, sure. I would try to do the best I can. I always try to poke the bear as much as I can. It's part of the job of a comedian.
nothing to poke the bear
Because
about as it pertains to one of the world's largest religions. I mean, come on.
I mean, I haven't written a joke about that recently.
All right. Then I
So
look
look,
forward to going to the UK.
hey man, I'm a free speech guy, right? I think that something that's nice about America is that we're a country that has that value.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that Tim thinks that he looks like he's coming out of this like he looks good. Well, like talking about child rape. Like, I don't know. He looks like a lunatic to me.
And that we don't generally think that you should be tossed into a van and kicked out of the country for expressing an opinion. I think that it is a change.
No, right.
I think it's a change in America to most people around the world to feel that, oh, wait, if I go to America and I express a mild opinion about their foreign policy in my own student paper, or maybe on a stage or maybe somewhere else, I could be, without any warning to me, accosted by 6 people on the street, thrown into a van, and taken out of the country.
Oh, come on,
right?
accosted.
Oh, let me finish.
Don't load the
I think that's a strain. I think that's a new idea for a lot of people, that America is that type of country. I think that Donald Trump's
Ryan's End, I try to have the captions on as much as I possibly can. I know it helps a lot of folks.
purpose is to turn America into that type of country. I think that that's bad. I think it makes the country smaller. I think it makes the country worse. I think it's a violation of most of the values that I grew up with as an American. And that's my view of what's happening in the country. Now, if you want to say, hey, I don't like free speech for foreign nationals who are in the country who express mild opinions about other countries' foreign wars, then that's your prerogative. It's a big difference between us that you don't like free speech in that way.
I mean, that's loaded language, right?
Yeah, all the language you're using is pretty loaded.
Well, you
you know, that's loaded language, says the guy who, like, 1 minute ago was talking about child rape gangs and child molestation. Like, yeah.
You keep using adjectives to describe things to diminish one thing while...
I'm sorry, what?
All the language you're using is pretty loaded.
Well, you keep using adjectives to describe things to diminish one thing while exacerbate or...
You keep using adjectives to describe things. Oh, fuck. Oh, God, I'm seeing stars. Oh, my God. Keep using adjectives to describe things to diminish one thing while
or exaggerate something else.
I do use the English.
Yeah, that is how adjectives work. That is how communicating an idea works. That is, in fact, how that works.
Language to express my thoughts and opinions. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's too...
I do need a sound clip of Adam Conover saying that.
Or exaggerate something else.
I do use the English language to express my thoughts and opinions. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's too... it's straw manning. It's
it's straw manning against his guy who just offered to give Adam Conover $10,000 to go to another country to tell a joke about Islam. Like,
you
what is
liberals
this?
And your adjectives.
You fool. You moron, you simpleton. Everyone knows socialists have all the parts of speech.
It's not a legitimate attack of...
Yeah, using the English language is a straw man. If you really wanted to communicate, you'd use mind waves and blinking.
The ideas, right? So accosted on the street. Come on. She was arrested. Okay. She was arrested by a relatively large group of men compared to what a normal arrest would require, which I think they didn't need to do and was silly. So we can say she was arrested by several men, unmarked, or plain clothes.
Yeah. How do we depoliticize this story about the secret police rolling up and arresting like a student for writing an op-ed? Yeah, let's depoliticize that.
Which didn't need to happen. But I don't need to say like she was accosted by men on the street and like it was about a mild opinion. It's like, okay, listen.
I'm sorry. Saying that the student government should have a say in school policy is a pretty mild opinion.
Facts of the case, like I said, I don't like the idea that people come to this country and then try and tell us how to do, how to live our lives.
You're not for free speech. I understand.
I think American citizens have
This is, by the way, again, this is why Tim tried to get off of this topic. It's why he was desperate to do it. It's because, frankly, he knows this makes him look bad. He knows this opens up a route for Adam Conover to say, hey, you don't like free speech. All right. And like Tim Pool's entire thing has been a free speech guy. Like this isn't a core attack on Tim.
Self-determination and sovereignty. And I will say this even of the Canadians who keep coming here and they keep getting involved in our politics. I'm friends with some of them, but I think it's fair to say that there is an issue with Canadians, largely conservatives, who come to this country and then start advocating for conservative values in a country they're not from. So to be fair, there are liberal Canadians who do it too. I find it to be silly. That being said, Canada as a bordering nation with a largely overlapping culture is a morally different question, but still applies in much the same way principally. So I do take issue with foreigners coming to my country.
It's a nice white country, so we like it.
Canada's, they call it what? The most multicultural country in the...
I do love that, like, for every sentence Adam says, Tim has to spend like 20 of his own in order to try and justify himself. He's turning himself into a verbal pretzel over this.
In the world, I think. Mm-hmm. They big on immigration, I think.
With all of his liberal adjectives and verbs and nouns.
Toronto is considered to be the most multicultural city in the world.
Yeah.
So Canada actually is, you can call it a nice white country. That's technically the truth, but it also is very, very much in favor of immigration and diversity and all these things. Largely what many of the conservatives who come here speaking out.
Yeah, just Shin Godzilla, like don't relitigate something against a mod. Just let it be. Like stop. Literally, the mods don't remember.
But without you know,
so this is a country where if you're from another country and you're in America, don't say anything about our politics, or you could be forcibly removed from the country. You're comfortable with America being that kind of country.
Marginally.
That's something that's like
I'm marginally comfortable. Okay, so you are comfortable.
That's a value of yours. Those are your values.
See, you're doing it again.
No,
he's just trying to figure out what you care about, man. Like what your position is. Like, more than just, like, observing that, yes, this is legal. Like, what is your position on whether it should be legal?
No, I'm trying to understand what you actually believe.
Yeah, I'd say marginally, it's a good...
Because I think that's a point of distinction. Like, it's useful in a conversation like this to be like, okay, I have my value, you have your value. And, my value is like, I really like it when people say what the fuck they think about any country's politics.
We can simplify it. My value would just be... to whatever mathematical degree, American sovereignty supersedes the right of foreigners to speak about our policies.
But in this case,
that's just my value.
It's just my value that like freedom shouldn't be free for everyone. You know, it's just my value that we should make this country suck more for people who weren't born here. Like, hey, you come here, you try and become a citizen legally, you try and do the naturalization process. Well, you better not say anything. You better not even attempt to have freedom of speech until you naturalize, okay?
Think that literally any time America is exercising its sovereignty, that's like a good thing in that particular case. Like, because...
What does that mean?
Like...
you're a guest in our... Mark... with all due respect, I think I said it like 6-7 times.
Uh-huh.
You're a guest in our country. Adhere to the rules. That's it. That includes conservative Canadians, conservative Brits. That's Carl Benjamin. That's Paul Joseph Watson.
Every single person he is naming, by the way, has criticized the U.S. government's foreign policy. I guarantee you.
That's Viva Frei. That's Seth Rogen, and it's also
okay. So all those people should not speak about American national interests in like the Suez Canal. We shouldn't.
Or literally that could encompass any topic. Any topic.
Say, the Panama Canal, or like, is Puerto Rico a state or not? Visa. They should not speak about American politics.
You can speak about what you want, but speech has consequences.
I mean,
doesn't it?
Okay, so we can move on. I'll say, to me, that's a radically different America than I thought I grew up in. And I think it's fucked up that we're becoming that kind of country. I think it's really bad.
I think that's true.
Yeah, you don't believe I think that's true?
Well, I mean, I suppose I
like what I just said. I believe you're like, you don't believe that.
Well, because if we go back several administrations, that's not been the case ever. I mean, look at New York in the 2000s when the Bush administration rounded people up. And well, I'm sorry, it wasn't Bush, during the Bush years. And they put 200 people in like a bus. They locked them in a bus cage.
Yeah, that was bad.
That's the country.
Yeah, that was bad. We shouldn't have done that. You're right. We shouldn't have done that, Tim.
I haven't heard Sad Pajama Watso's name in a minute.
I just... This man... like, does he use the beanie to cover up the fact that he's, like, had his brain sucked out? I don't know. It's weird.
Country you grew up in. The idea that these things haven't been happening. George Carlin got arrested for swearing. We had blasphemy.
Yeah, that was bad.
It was bad. Yeah, and it was bad. And then we said, oh, we shouldn't do that anymore.
And it never changed. The idea that you think you grew up in a nation where you could say whatever.
I love that Tim thinks he's staking out some kind of moral position by just observing what the law is and then attacking Adam Conover for saying, hey, we should maybe not do these things because they're heinous and disgusting.
What if you wanted is an absurdity. George Carlin went to jail for swearing.
And that was good, you think?
No,
because
it wasn't.
you think it's good that Rumeysa Öztürk is being forced to leave the country.
Citizen.
So
she's on a conditional visa as conditioned by the INA and the existing administration and the will of the voters.
Okay, but you're arguing...
No, my argument is...
You're arguing that
Öztürk's
deportation makes sense because George Carlin was arrested for swearing.
No. You said...
Yes. That's literally your chain of logic.
I grew up in a country with free speech, and I said, no, you did not.
And
it's never been true.
We have this thing called the First Amendment, Tim. You might want to read it.
And you're like, okay, yes, you're right. So under your view, America is a country that doesn't have free speech, never had free speech.
Yes.
And that's a good thing.
No.
Because we're exercising our sovereignty.
No.
Okay, but you think it's a good thing that Rumeysa Öztürk doesn't have free speech?
Can you understand the distinction between a non-citizen here on a conditional visa and an American citizen being arrested for swearing?
I understand that there's a distinction. I don't think that either of those people should be treated differently in that case.
Let me say this.
I don't agree with you, man.
This country has never had free speech.
Okay, I think
it's a fact. When the founding fathers
it's a fact. The Constitution isn't real. Hey guys, did you know the Constitution? It's not real. It's just a piece of paper. It's just like a social it's not real. We don't have that. We actually have no freedoms whatsoever. That's Tim Pool's very enlightened centrist position.
The Constitution.
Do you think we should have free speech?
Yes, but there are limits on what free speech is based on the moral worldview of the individual argument. For instance, do you believe someone should be allowed to direct someone to commit a violent crime?
That's not the moral worldview of an argument. That is the effect of the speech. So you think that whether you have free speech should be your words should be based on the moral worldview of the argument.
So to understand your view of what free speech means, I'm asking you a question.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody says explicitly, you right now commit crime to that person, is that free speech?
Someone says you right now commit crime to that person, and what, do they do it?
Yes.
I mean, I guess I'm not a free speech scholar, but like that is there's probably be legal consequences for that free speech.
It is illegal to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think someone should be able to yell fire in a crowded theater?
I mean, this is the canonical example of speech that's not free speech. So.
It actually is. That's Brandenburg v. Ohio. It is, in fact, legal speech. I don't think people should. I understand the Supreme Court's ruling on that issue.
You know, what's really interesting about what Tim Pool just said? He just said a very important sentence there, right? I don't think people should. That's the first time I've heard him actually commit to some kind of moral position in this entire fucked up conversation. Like when he's talking about Rumeysa Öztürk, he doesn't want to say what should be. He just wants to commit to, well, that's what the law is. And so, like, I don't know. I find that interesting. He can, in fact, stake out a moral position. He just chooses not to. You know, because he's a hack.
The challenge with free speech, let's go back to the beginning of this country. Blasphemy laws were on the books after they even had the First Amendment.
So
they literally said you can't blaspheme. We would say that's not free speech, but how did you have a First Amendment if you arrested people for blaspheming? My point is, and this is an anarchist philosophy, the laws of the country are dictated by those with the power to enforce it. That's why it used to be illegal to put a pie on your windowsill, but even though it's still illegal, nobody arrests you for it. So free speech does change throughout the generations.
Of course.
We never grew up in an era. We never had a time in our lives where you had.
I've never heard anyone say that it's illegal to put a pie on a windowsill. I don't think that's true. I don't. There's no possible way that's true, right?
True free speech.
Don't even try it. It's the pie police. There's only 3 of us, but we'll get you. You leave a pecan outside, you so much as put a pumpkin in the patch, we will get your ass. We make most of our arrests at Baker's Square. We have our eye on you.
Speech the way the absolutists want it to be.
Yeah, I'm talking about the story that we tell about ourselves as a country, man. I'm talking about
That's not true.
The pie-lease. The pie-lease.
Talking about the values that we have collectively as people. And of course, those are always changing a little bit and people are trying to pull them in one direction or another.
Split in half.
I would have thought, that like, I don't know that much about you. I know you're very involved with Occupy and stuff like that and protest movements, which I think is cool work. I would have thought that like a student writing an op-ed about another country's war and her own institution's support for it, vis-a-vis our country's foreign policy, would be the kind of thing that you would think is a sort of free speech that we should value. That is the kind of free speech that I think, I personally think like a lot of the idea of America is built upon. I think it's one of the good things about the country, that this is a country where you can come here and you can express your opinion mildly in the newspaper.
What happened at Kent State?
And I think Kent State was bad.
My point is, there's things we wish America was. But I kind of feel like a non-citizen.
But this one you said you think is good. You're not sitting here going, man, yeah, that's a bummer.
She got deported, dude. What are you talking about? She didn't get shot in the face. A conditional visa was revoked. I'm not crying about it. I don't care.
That's insane, dog.
I mean, I think she cares. I think her family cares. Bad. I think the people of her university care. I think
change the law, man. This is a marginal issue for a single person who was invited.
It's not a single person. They've been going after almost all like foreign students.
Violation of the INA as it's enforced by a government that was elected by a popular majority, or I should say by a plurality, but the popular vote. So let me pull this up.
Pie. You're coming with us for bad puns. You're going away for a long time, lady.
The FB pie is really good. That's really fucking good. God damn, that's good.
Because we were talking about earlier, this is RCP from April 22nd. Every age bracket, to be fair, 40-49 is a tie, but Real Clear Politics aggregate shows from all of the latest polls, 70 plus is the only age group that is a negative view of Trump's job.
Okay. I'm just trying to.
This is a popular majority.
I'm just trying to make sense of your position around free speech, because you agree with me about all the past things in America that you're talking about. Kent State, you're talking about George Carlin and all these other things, and these were bad abrogations of free speech.
Indeed, deportation is not a murder. You're going home. I'm giving you a ride home.
But
if you came to my house, I let you in.
Yeah, but also like. I'm sorry, but if someone came and abducted you away from an institution you've spent years of your life studying at, in the middle of getting your degree, and you've spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to get that degree, and someone comes and kidnaps you and sends you to another country and says you can't come back, like that has a lot of other consequences than just like driving you home.
In the door, I said, you can hang out tonight. And he started shit talking my brother. I say, bro, I'm gonna give you a ride home. I don't think you should be here. That's not an affront to someone's sovereignty or free speech. It's like the worst thing that happened to you is I gave you a.
Yeah, there's a difference between you, an individual, like revoking guest status in your house, and the U.S. government sending police to arrest you and take you to prison.
Ride home. Oh, I'm gonna cry. She's going home. What's the problem? Home's nice. She was here conditionally. We said, hey, we kind of think you're being a dick.
We need tart reform now. That's also real fucking good, Nyan Rat. Thank you.
We're going to give you a ride home. That's it.
I mean, when I get a ride home,
Kent State,
six
they
guys
shot
don't
people and
normally
killed
shove me into a van, and then my family doesn't know where I am. That's How
about you're at a bar and you're acting out in some way, and they say, "Listen, buddy,
do you feel
security throws you out of the bar?
Do you feel this woman was
cab.
acting out? Do you think she was acting inappropriately? Do you think that she was acting?
I've already told you I did not.
Okay, so then how are you justifying what happened?
I don't think you can
legally narrow that it can happen. Therefore, it's good.
I don't think you know how to separate. I just don't think you know how to comprehend the separation between. I have no issue with a woman making her argument. I think it was absurd to claim she's adhering to Hamas because she's critical of Israel, but her visa is conditional, and it is the authority of these United States and the Secretary of State to revoke that. So it's okay, right? Trump won the popular vote.
What? But
this is the agenda.
Man. Sorry, man. This is the hump that I can't get over.
Clearly,
you don't have any problem with what she actually did, right? But Trump and Rubio had the narrow legal ability to do it.
You're not following.
By the way, I'm trying to follow where they got that data from Real Clear Politics, because I went to Real Clear polling on Trump's approval rating, and the average shows most people disapprove of the job he's doing, and I'm trying to figure out where they got the age breakdown here. And you can filter by pollster, of course, but I don't know, I'm not really finding the data here. Most people don't think he's doing great.
You agree with their decision to
I do not. It. I think there is a net negative to a degree that foreigners come to this country to dictate our politics.
They're not dictating. To dictate implies authority, Tim. There's a difference between dictating something and sharing an opinion on something.
Canadian, British,
dictate our politics, or just give their opinion in the newspaper that's dictating?
Let's I'll turn on the language. To come here and advocate for policies of the American people.
So you feel that foreign nationals of all kinds, when they're in the United States, should never speak about our politics ever, upon pain of legal punishment. That is a position that you have about America generally.
Did they agree to it? When they applied for the visa under the INA, did they agree to those terms?
I don't know.
The answer is yes, they did. It clearly states when you're coming here on a condition, you can't do certain things. It literally says you won't protest. And we still would allow them to hold a sign up or something. But maybe if they didn't.
Clearly not, since you're arresting someone and trying to deport them for writing an op-ed, you dipshit.
But apparently we don't allow them to hold a sign.
I don't care.
So I'm not asking about what they agreed to. I'm not asking about the legal justification.
Don't agree to things you don't want to adhere to.
Do you, Tim Pool, believe that as a more...
It's incredible that it's taken us an hour to get to, just what do you believe on this, Tim?
Moral issue, as a practical issue. Do you think that America should be a country in which every foreign national in the country should feel that they should never speak about American politics under pain of legal punishment?
No.
You don't think that you don't agree with that?
You presented me an absolute, right? You gave me the extreme end.
Okay, so Rumesa Ozturk, I think, is a really illustrative example because it was such a mild
understand
version.
That they've made an agreement upon entering this country that if they are in violation of the terms of their visa, it may be revoked. If they come here with the intent of advocating against U.S.
I've seen your comment, Hexahedron.
Foreign policy, that is a consequence. Speech has consequences. I think we're getting hung up on the issue that I've clearly answered, and I understand maybe you don't understand, but
I think I've pinned you down well enough that you just really have a much smaller view of free speech than I do, and I think a lot of Americans do.
I don't think what you said.
Yes, you do. Yes, he absolutely does. It's bizarre, frankly. This guy's entire career has been free speech warrior Tim Pool, and he's just completely throwing that out the window at this point. I guess it's really cheap to buy Tim. one trip to Mar-a-Lago, and suddenly you're just throwing all of the things you at least claimed to stand by in the trash. You know, who knew it was so cheap?
I think it's a change to the American spirit. I think it makes the country smaller. It's a shittier country to live in. Is a country where people live in fear of what they say when they're here on a student.
They always
visa.
have.
Yeah, and that's bad.
So,
it's bad
so
to live in fear of saying shit.
This is not. You see, this is here's the issue. I suppose
your whole bullshit culture baiting thing about the Islam stuff in England. If what you say is true, and it may be, I don't know, because I don't really I don't really follow that as
you would
do.
never.
But I think it's.
Balthazar, thank you for the $5 super chat. Adam, we live in a capitalist society. America is capitalist. Free speech doesn't exist. Nothing is free. We don't live in communist China. Adam, we live in a capitalist society. America is capitalist. Free speech doesn't exist. Nothing is free. We don't live in communist China.
Bad about that country.
You would never go to the UK and do those things.
If I were now, look, I don't know of the policies of which you speak, okay? But if I were to be in England and I were to make a joke on their stage and I were to be put into a van and removed from a country, I would say this is a bad thing about England, and I think that the country sucks, and I think that they should change it, and I don't think people should go there anymore, and that sucks for them and it sucks for us.
You wouldn't make a joke about Islam in the United States. You wouldn't.
Okay, sure. What's that meant to prove?
You don't actually believe in free speech. You fear the consequences.
Because I don't make a joke about the topic that you demand me to?
Because this topic...
What a whiny little bitch.
I don't believe in free speech.
Resulted in people like at Charlie Hebdo getting murdered.
Yeah, that's bad. It's bad that they were murdered.
South Park tried just showing Muhammad, and Comedy Central wouldn't let him do it.
Yeah, that's bad.
So let's see you stand up for that value and come out and make a joke about Islam.
I've stood up about free speech plenty of times. What are you talking about?
Take it to the next level, brother.
Okay.
How about we do this? You believe in free speech.
Dude, this is what you do when you've lost an argument. Is that you just
you're not even arguing
to this. You just jump to this. What? What'd you say?
You brought it up.
What did I? Oh, the Islam piece of it. No.
And now I'm continuing the conversation, and you're derailing into you must have lost the argument.
No, because
let's stand up for South Park, for Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Yeah, I stand up for them.
So go on stage and show a big picture of Muhammad.
I'm sorry. What the thing that you're doing?
Stand up for free speech, brother. Do it.
So
I'll do it with you.
So,
dude, this is bizarre. Frankly, as someone with relatively little skin in the game here, this is weird as shit. This is weird as shit.
So you're demanding me to go on stage and do something specific, and unless I do, I'm a coward.
I'm saying
this is a bizarre rhetorical move. This is a bizarre rhetorical move.
I didn't call you a coward. I said, prove you care about free speech.
Yeah,
do something that creates real risk to your person for free speech.
What the fuck is he talking about? Well, does he want Adam Conover to tell him to go shoot someone in the head, and then Tim will be forced to do it? I don't understand what the end game is here. Also, hexahedron. The bill passed out of committee already. It passed out of committee an hour ago. It now advances to a floor vote. The budget bill advances to a floor vote. Yeah. Sadly.
Yeah, I speak about shit all the time, dude. I'm happy to live in America.
Also, it doesn't, just as an FYI, it doesn't ban gender affirming care. It simply removes the provision that requires health plans to cover gender affirming care. And that fucking sucks. But that was unfortunately very likely to happen.
America, where the things I say don't create real risk to my person. In fact, if I were to say the things that you're saying, I would not be creating real risk to my person.
You don't think so?
I do not think so.
Then why not just do it? Prove me wrong.
Because I don't have anything in particular to say about those topics.
Just put a picture of Muhammad up and say, praise be. Prove I'm wrong.
I'm really glad we got here again because it's just very fun to sit in how
it is very fun to like sit there knowing you absolutely dominated that argument, Adam. Well done. Well fucking done.
Weird this part of the conversation is.
Remember Charlie Hebdo?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, a bunch of people were shot because they
showed a picture of Muhammad.
Yeah, that's bad.
You think if you did that, they might want to shoot you too?
Yeah, maybe.
So you shouldn't do it.
I mean, I don't have it. Well, the particular images that they showed, I didn't think were like very funny. Like it was their right to
wouldn't
do
let
it.
South Park do it either. They censored the whole thing.
Yeah, that's bad.
Like
yeah, that's bad, and I think that's contrary to American values.
Why won't the free speech people who believe we should live in this country stand up against that?
I'm sorry. I'm not standing up for free speech unless I do what exactly?
I didn't say the only way for you to stand up for free.
Tim is such a cowardly piece of shit. Jesus. Would you repeat that, please? Yeah, as just like an update here. The budget bill advanced out of the Rules Committee. It's going to go towards a vote on the House floor. Who knows how long that will take, but it's not going for a House floor vote tonight. That being said, you should call your representatives tomorrow and make the biggest goddamn stink about it you possibly can. So what the provision that I was talking about earlier that got snuck into the bill was it essentially removed the language that was essentially saying we're going to remove the coverage or the requirement that Medicaid and Affordable Care Act plans cover gender affirming care
I'm
for
sorry, Tim's last
under 18
brain wrinkle,
minors.
but you've been voted off the Cerebrum.
It's true, Sake Tanuki. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. So basically, they want to make it they want to remove all the requirements from Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act plans to allow insurance companies to not cover gender affirming care for people of any age. That's the summary of it. We'll need to call a lot tomorrow, sadly. It's cowardly and duplicitous, and yeah. Make as much stink about it tomorrow and until they stop trying to pass it as you can. So that is the... Now, the House bill hasn't passed, but it is going to go to the floor vote, probably tomorrow sometime. And then it goes on to the Senate.
Holy crap, I am going to have to watch this later to catch the first half. I don't know if I will make it without distractions. From Caracal.
Caracal, I'm sorry, but thank you for the $5 super chat. I want to know exactly what I'm telling them to do. You need to tell them to kill the budget bill, to vote no on the budget bill. Like that's what you need to tell them to do. Do we talk about George Connolly dying? No, I don't care. I don't care about that raggedy bitch passing.
Free speech is do something. I said, why won't people who are claiming...
You called me a hypocrite, and I don't understand what's hypocritical about me only doing jokes about the topics that I'm interested in.
That you would not go to the UK and speak in violation of their speech laws.
I mean, I went there. I made fun of their government. I talked about, the fire at Heathrow because that impacted my travel when I was there. I talked about, yeah.
So you can make fun of white people, but you can't make fun of non-white people. You go to jail for that.
Okay, yeah, I think that would, if it's as you say, that sounds like if it applied to me as a comedian,
I would not.
I think it would say that's a bad law.
I would not go to Turkey and speak out against Islam, and I would not go to the UK and violate their speech laws.
Oh, okay. So are you a coward? What's your point?
No, I actually agree with the sovereignty.
No. I'm not a coward. I just kowtow to power.
Of nations, and if they have laws, I'm not going to violate them.
Oh, I see. I see the point that you're making. Okay, so when things are legal, they're just.
No.
Okay. So then, what is your point?
Your argument is that foreigners should come here.
So one of your values is you should respect the sovereignty of other nations. But again, look, this is a
should we invade China?
This is a recent change in the
way. Yeah, gender affirming care can be very expensive, Cat Bingo.
Way that the U.S. prosecutes and selectively enforces the laws that are on the books, and that's what happened to Rumeysa Öztürk, and again, that's like a material change in spirit and values of America.
Just because I think we spent like an hour on the one subject.
Yeah,
we can
I've been having a great time. Yeah,
I agree. It's been fun. I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I've been having a great. Yeah, it's super fun.
You mentioned that Trump is, it's the makings of authoritarianism and things like that. Do you think that's distinct from any other administration?
All right, I'm gonna call it. I think we've gotten through this section, but I'm willing to come back to this. This has been really fun.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, being plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.